Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. This is the Niantic panel for today. For this afternoon, we have the Coralis Rosario from Niantic. She's going to be the moderator for the lecture. We've been graced with the gods from Niantic for getting new Pokestops. 2 gyms, which I have to say, guys, you would be proud of us. Those things have been going at it all day. It's changed colors so many times. I'm not even aware. I think it's rainbow colored right now. So the kids are having fun with it. It's awesome. And there's a lot of people switching it up and playing. I haven't seen that many people congregated playing Pokemon Go in this area in a little bit. So it's awesome to see a lot of people putting effort into it. So thank you very much for that. It was a great detail, and everybody loves it. So enough about that. Without further ado, I am going to hand the mic over to Coralis Rosario from Niantic, and she's going to grace us and introduce the rest of the panel. So thank you very much, guys. And Coralis, it's all yours.
Sweet. Good morning. Well, good morning for us and good afternoon for everyone else. I'm Coralie. I'm from Puerto Rico, but I've been living here on the West Coast for 10 years now. I'm going to be moderating today's panel, but I'm going to have all our panelists introduce themselves real quick. I'm going to start. Coralie Rosario, she, her. I've been in the industry for 10 years, a little bit more, mainly working in mobile, but I've worked on apps, web, games. I'm senior UX designer currently on Wayfair. And we have Dottie back here. And who would like, I'm just going to go in order. That way it's easier for you all. Abby, go for it.
Hey, hi, my name is Abby Wahman, she, her. I've been in the industry for about 7.5-ish years. I'm a senior client engineer on Pokemon Go, work on Unity kind of things. And I actually grew up in Miami, so I know just a little bit of Spanish.
Go. Saludo.
Hola.
All right. Zeus.
Hey, my name is Zeus, pronouns he, him. I've been in the industry for over 10 years now as a game designer, both for live operations and for feature development. And some of the things that I've worked on in PGOs since my time here, Valentine's Day 2022, spring into spring, and more recently, if y'all played the gold Pokestops and Gimme Ghoul and things like that, I was part of the team and the game designer for that feature. So yeah, that's me.
Awesome. Jason.
Hey everyone, I'm Jason. I'm a 2D, 3D designer here at Niantic, working on Pokemon Go. Been here for the last little over 5 years, and I do some of the loading screens, some of the icon, the logos for the seasonal stuff, and then some character work, just whatever is actually needed for the art in Pokemon Go. I'm usually on it.
Tiffany.
Hello, my name's Tiffany. I go by she, hers. I've been in the industry about 2 years. This is my first job out of college, so I'm pretty fresh. I'm currently a UX designer on Pico, and then also working a little bit on platform as well. I guess the recent features that I worked on account deletion. I helped create the new sticker sheet in the game, so I hope players really like that. And then, I worked with a team of like engineers and developers and artists regarding the new season 9 site, as well as the GoTour site. And Jason was one of the artists that I worked with.
Yeah, I get to see like Tiffany's updates pretty much almost every week. It's like, I'm excited about everything. And last but not least, I want to make sure I'm saying your name right. Anna, right?
Yep, that's right.
Yes, I got it right. Yes.
Yay. Hi, my name is Anna and my pronouns is she, her. I've been in the industry for 3 years and this is my first game jobs. So I came from Thailand, but I've been in the US for like 5 years. And yeah, I've been working as a technical artist. When saying technical artist, somebody like most people might not know what it's about. So it's a bridge between engineer and artist. So sometimes we do codings, or sometimes we implement the art asset, create particle effects or animation, stuff like that. And my recent features work, if people play Pokemon Go during the Halloween, you will see the map is changing. So I did a lot of research and implementations for the map visuals for Halloween. I also work on the Golden Pokestop other stuff that I cannot talk about.
Yeah. We can't talk about like a lot of things, but no, like tech art for me is always just, I have so much respect for tech art because it's not only making things look good, but actually making them work right. And as a UX designer, having a good tech artist is just like, it's gold, it's beautiful. So as everyone, and thank you all again for just being part of this panel and lending your time to just a bunch of students that are like really trying to understand like what the industry is like, and especially working on a game like Pokemon Go that has such far reach, especially globally. As everyone that's watching can appreciate, everyone here comes from different backgrounds. They all work on different disciplines within the game industry. And we all have just a bunch of different levels of experience. Like some of them, like myself, we've been here for a pretty long time. Others, like this is their first job. So what you're gonna get today is just like so many perspectives across the board. But that being said, you know, we again all come from different places, from different backgrounds, different countries, etc. How did you all get to where you are now? Like, if you can explain like briefly, like how did you know that you wanted to work in games? What was like that moment where it's like, oh yes, this specifically? And anyone can go first.
I can go first. To be honest, I didn't know I was going to work in games. I graduated like at the beginning of COVID. So I honestly was just trying to search for my first job out of college. And thankfully I got the opportunity to be in an apprenticeship that was partnered with Niantic. So the apprenticeship really helped me like understand what UX design was within at least like a gaming/tech company. So that's pretty much how I started. But I would say like so far it's like a really great experience. I've dabbled in like different areas that I didn't know I would ever dabble in. I think that's also like a good tip for new grads, like kind of go broad, just like dip your toes in many things, and then later down the line, then you can see like what you like and what you don't like.
Who else would like to talk about themselves?
I guess. No, I'll go. Yeah, primarily because my route was actually quite non-traditional. So I graduated with a degree in creative writing, not really thinking that my life path would ever lead me into the world of video games, game design, and Pokemon Go. Really my first kind of like opportunity in the industry came as a focus group back in 2012 for the small Facebook game company in Northern California. I was one of their active players. I signed up for their panel to do workshop to help improve the game. I actually prepared before attending this meeting. I went to the library. I borrowed 2 books on game design. And for the month before I attended this workshop, I basically read it, all these books cover to cover, absorb as much knowledge as possible so I can more effectively communicate my ideas to the group. So I came to this workshop with very janky just game design documents with really bad drawings. I think one of them was, a drawing of like their raid in the game, but it ended up looking like a giant cat with wings. But despite suffice to say, I came very prepared for this meeting, and a month after this workshop, the CEO of the company was so impressed with how prepared I was and how I expressed my ideas. He actually offered me a job for the very same game that I was playing. And obviously at the time I was working just as an admin assistant for a commercial company that printed out banners and stuff for conventions. And obviously I wanted to take an opportunity to shoot my shot and in being a game designer because I love playing games. I love playing this game in particular. That's how I first started getting in the industry.
That's cool. Like I like telling when I do mentorship, like I always let folks know, like, hey, what you put into this is what you're going to get out of it. And you're an example of that. You took the time to actually like prepare for this outside of what was expected of you, and you got it. That's so cool. Who would Ebby? I think you wanted to talk.
My story is not as cool as Zeus's. I actually graduated with an electrical engineering degree, and that was the path that I thought I was going to be on at that time. But turned out after doing an internship, realized that I don't like electrical engineering at all. So one of my friends from my university had actually recruited me to work on a video game project that her professor was doing. And that was my first taste into like how cool it was making games, all the different hats you could wear, and just like how satisfying it was like to like have somebody else play your game. But I didn't really have any other experience in games besides that. And so I kind of just defaulted back into like tech. So for a couple of years, I worked in the car industry and then in the software industry. But I kept thinking about that time I made that one game and how cool that was. So that led me back to Niantic, and it's been a great time ever since.
I'll go next. Let's see. I started way back when I didn't even know this industry existed. I was playing World of Warcraft all the time. That's kind of my story of what do I want to do with my life? All right. I was in business in college, and I love business. Don't get me wrong. It's just as an 18-year-old, 19-year-old, I probably didn't appreciate it as much as I do now. But I kind of asked myself, like, okay, maybe I can actually make games. There are people making this, but all my life, my parents told me that you can't make money doing art. And so I didn't focus on it. And then I went back to school. I said, you know what, maybe they're wrong. And so I researched, I took some classes, I talked to different people. I went down to LA to just see, is there money in art, or can I make a living? And I found out, there's a thing called entertainment industry that needs it a lot. And then came cell phones, and that kind of needs it everywhere. And I was like, I think they're wrong. And so I went to college in San Jose State, which is a local community college that turned out to have a really good art program. Made friends, and that's a big thing. You need to just make connections, whether it be on the internet now. Connections are such a big part of our industry. And then I think I did go above and beyond. And that's how I got into our industry, was in college, especially during my senior year, when not only was I doing the like our main projects, I was also making a short film on the side. And so that short film is honestly what has gotten me all the positions I've had so far. And so far I've been over 10 years total in the industry. And so it was always that. And I always found that crazy because I was just doing that because I loved it. And I was thinking, I'm going to go work at Disney one day and make film and all this. That didn't happen. And I'm actually happy because I love where I work now. I love our game. But that film is what got me everything else. It wasn't the work that I was doing in school, although that helped me prepare to make that film. but it was just the effort, seeing that this person exerts extra effort, which shows through, your hopeful potential employers. So.
Yep. So I guess I'm last. Yeah. So everyone else, I like to play games, but I didn't know that I will be in the game industry at first. The only thing I know that when I was young, I really want to be an artist. But I went to do a undergrad in like similar to Abby, computer engineering. So like we're doing more like hardware stuff, and then do a little bit of programming. And part of the reason was that my family didn't really believe that we would make money making games or like making money creating art. So that's why I start out as a computer engineering. And after graduate, I took a job in the car industry as a software engineer for 2 years, and that was the time that I realized that I really hated it. So I feel like if you're going to do something every day and do the same thing every day, I would rather do something that I enjoy about it. And that's why I try to like shift my part to being into the game industry, which is something that I really interest in, making games and creating art. But at first, and the reason why I choose the game industry, because I think that since I already have some programming background and I really interest in creating arts, creating something to do with visuals, it's kind of mixed between both worlds, where the technology and the visual kind of like blend together into like interactive media. And that's why I came to the US, and then I took a master degree in game development, specialized in art creation.
Awesome. I want just like a couple of you to answer this question, but like if you think, of your past, your background, all the steps that it took to get you to where you are now, what would you say was like one of your biggest challenges you had to overcome? I know a few of you talked about like the fact that like your parents were just kind of like, yeah, games don't make money. And I'm on that boat. But what were some other challenges that you all had to kind of like go through?
I would say at least for art wise, since I stopped practicing art in high school and all that, I had to come back from like, I don't know how many years, 7 years of not doing art. And so when you look at my intro, like portfolio, when I first decided, I think I was 22, and I was like, okay, yeah, I'm going to go back into art. I was terrible. I look back, I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is me. So like in this college, like since I was 4 years, like I didn't do any like college things, right? Like I was just in my room all the time. I'd go to school, I'd come home, and I'd just draw, study, go to work, come back. Like I had no life. So, I mean, not to say that was the best thing to do, but it was in my situation at feeling behind. And so I had to push myself forward a little bit more. And so it's just my personal situation. Don't do it if you're not in that same one, but it's just putting that extra effort. I know I needed to do it. And so that's what I had to overcome.
I can relate to that a lot. So when I was trying to like move from the software field into the kind of art creation field, I feel myself falling behind a lot, because most of the people came from the art background, and like I did not have like an actual like art class at all. So it's more about like trying to practice myself. And after I finished my master degree, it's kind of go back to another bigger challenge, which is trying to break into the industry. I feel like most of the game jobs are trying to hiring for people with a lot of experience. But as a new grad, that's kind of hard to find the one that is opening for like a new grad. So I think one of the things that I have to make sure is trying to train myself a lot. So trying to like fill in the gap. So they're looking for people with experience. So try my best to level up that skill, and then trying to make the best portfolio as much as I can. And I also didn't sleep a lot, which I don't recommend, but that's the part that I took.
Yeah, I relate to Anna's story. So in college, I went to UC Berkeley, where I studied art history and media. I would say I don't really use my knowledge in those areas. But yeah, it was really hard to try to get a job in design since I didn't have like the traditional path of taking those classes. And then I didn't know if that I wanted to go in design until my senior year, like my last semester of college. And so it was really like, I guess, initially discouraging for me to see peers that were sophomores and then they already had internships as like a product designer. It was really discouraging. But the good thing is that during college, like I did a lot of, I guess, like graphic design with like a bunch of orgs just to like flesh out my design skills. And then just like pushing really hard to like build my portfolio. And just like talking to a lot of people within the field, whether it be students who are interning at a company or someone who's been in the field for quite a while. Just getting that range of like advice for people who are in different stages of their career. So yeah, I would say the challenge was like trying to jumpstart my career in the beginning and try to like file like everything into a portfolio to show my skills.
Speaking of skills,
May I say one thing real quick?
Yeah.
Like I don't want to give off a bad advice that I actually don't like believe in. And Tiffany could attest to this. Like, even when I was pushing really hard, like I never recommend like working and not sleeping. Like sleep is such an important thing. And that's why I didn't do the typical college thing, right? Like I was not going to stay out late. I was not going to party. I was not going to, do most all-nighters. Like I barely did all-nighters in college. Like it was, I would get my 8 hours, I would work out, I would eat right, even while I was working really hard. And I do that now today. Like I still do that. Like I do not
you
recommend.
build good habits.
Yeah, I do not recommend overworking. It's most of the time when you overwork, you're getting less done in a larger amount of time. And if you actually get a proper amount of sleep, you have the proper amount of exercise, you are going to get so much done in such a shorter amount of time. And if like you're stuck on anything and problems, stop working. Like you need to stop because it's not going to help you banging your head on a wall. Like you get out, you're like, I'm going to go on a run. And a lot of times, or I'm going to just go on a walk. And a lot of times it'll hit you when you're not thinking about it and then you can recover. So I don't want to go out, I don't want to leave advice not without saying that. So
It's good advice. Like I think a few of us have pulled several. I know when I was in college, like I would be up for like 3 days, maybe sleeping 2 hours in between. Do not recommend at all. You think in the moment it isn't really affecting you as much. Long term, you have no idea how many folks I know that have, like long chronic illnesses because of them not taking care of themselves. Really good advice. I want to move on and just talk a little bit more about like the actual work that you do in your day to day. Again, just a couple of you, like, can you tell me a little bit about the technical and soft skills? Because folks think soft skills aren't that important, but they really, really, really are, especially in this industry. What technical and soft skills are involved in the type of work that you do? It would go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'll go ahead and start, at least in the game design perspective. I will say in the technical aspect of things, being able to effectively communicate your ideas, not only verbally, but also on paper, so that people are able to really understand the direction or the nuance or the overall creative vision that you have for a given event, live ops event that you're creating, a feature that is being developed. Being able to effectively communicate that verbally and in writing is very important. In other technical skills that I've just learned over time in this role, while it's different from company to company, understanding kind of like the markup languages, right? Things like XML or here we use GMTs. Markup languages are essentially like the easy mode of like programming. I guess that's just like at a high level, kind of my definition of it. But no, being able to at least program in some capacity or understand how programming languages work will go a very long ways, because a lot of the roles, to my understanding, in this industry also requires at least some level of knowledge in terms of programming. As far as the soft skills for this role, being able to empathize with the people who will be playing the content that you're creating, right? Understanding how to envision or to feel what this experience will look like when it's live, even at just at a very either high imaginative level, or developing it in a sandbox and then kind of playing the content yourself, right? These kind of like soft skills of just understanding how your players will feel when they are going through your content definitely helps to refine the content that you're developing as a game designer.
Yeah, I would say for so I do more of the software engineering kind of things. So our tech stack is mostly for client engineers C# because we're working in Unity. So that's like the technical skills, kind of like knowing how to use C#, knowing the like how do you manipulate and use Unity to do the thing you're trying to make. But yeah, I think surprisingly the soft skills are what I use more than my technical skills. So like, it's kind of like what Zeus is saying, like empathizing with the player. So like you might be given a spec or a design, and when you're making it, like maybe you might notice like, oh, this is kind of hard, or like this is a kind of weird thing to do, and bringing that up to other people, discussing it, knowing what you know and knowing that you don't know something. So being able to go ask for help is like, so I think like a lot of people think that like, oh, you are in tech or you are a senior engineer, you must know everything. Like, no, that's not true. I don't. I just know. I humble myself and I ask people and I tell them I don't know things. And I think that's the most important skill that I've learned is just like, don't be afraid to ask for help, and like, you're always learning. So I think that's like my number one like advice is like, don't hold yourself back by not asking for help.
I think one thing I hear a lot is be teachable as well, and
Yeah.
and always be learning. Yeah. I got time for one more if anyone wants to jump in. If not, I'm going to continue.
I guess I can highlight the self-learning or like anger to learn, which is kind of important soft skill for like many industry and also the tech industry. And yep, the game industry it's always developed, like new tech always come out, like even the like Unity editors, the new version always come out every day, not every day, every years, and that's always new features that you got to learn. And if you stop learning, someone else will surpass you. And yep. Yeah, that's my recommendations.
Thank you. I'm going to jump a little bit and talk or ask you all for an example, especially you all work on the same team. And I would imagine at some point you all have worked on the same feature or a feature or something together. I want to ask you about the typical process, like what it's like when you do cross collaboration with other departments. Let's say Zeus came up with an idea for some sort of feature that's going to go into Pokemon Go. We don't need to talk about anything that exists currently or is in development, just in case. What happens from there? What does that cross collaboration look like across everyone that's in this room right now?
I feel like this question definitely differs depending on the discipline that you're in. At least in my workflow process, in regards to at least Pigo specifically, there sometimes the like for a live ops event, we know it's a known quantity, like Valentine's Day, spring into spring, Dia de los Muertos. Those are events that'll be on the calendar. In some of those events, sometimes there will be guidance from TPC, like, hey, we want to feature, this costume Pokemon, or, we want to release like a new Pokemon, during this event. Other times, TPC is just aware of the general kind of direction, like, hey, this event is coming up. We're relying on you to provide, what you feel is like the appropriate direction. And at least in the game design and TPC perspective, we have a conversation between each other to, really refine the approvals of, what makes sense for this, if we can release this Pokemon at this time, things of that nature. In terms of feature development, kind of a similar thing. It can either be, sometimes TPC provides us with a framework of what they expect for a certain feature to be released, or they just have a very high level idea that they propose to us, or we most of the time propose to them, like, here's a feature that we kind of want to develop. Please, we'll walk you through this slide deck that we've made of like talking very, very high level on what this idea is. And then from there, once everything's approved and there's alignment, then, internally, in my experience, game design takes some time to create the, just the initial framework of the game design document, and then that is shared to the development team, and we all work together to refine the document, figure out creative solutions to certain technical limitations or things like that, and yeah, that's how. And we just do this process kind of back and forth until we reach a reasonable consensus, and that we just move towards actually developing the content. Even during that time, we'll find things like, once it's in our hands and we're actually playing the prototype, like, oh, wait a minute, maybe this thing actually like isn't actually going to jive well for a technical reason, or maybe an experiential reason, right? And so, it's just a matter of continuing the collaboration throughout the process until like we're all, we come to a point where, okay, this is in a good state, then, we get it out the door. So that's kind of been my experience, at least in the game design discipline.
Tiffany, I want to, because a lot of people don't really understand what UX designers do, or they don't really understand how we're involved in certain things. So let's say Zeus came up with this design spec. How would you be involved in this process?
We literally just talked about this yesterday, Zeus. But basically, he builds like a document covering just like a draft of like the flows that a player goes through, and then taking in mind the user experience part to understand like how would a player go through this flow? Is there any conflict or friction? Is it delightful for a player to actually go through this flow? These are abstract words, but I would say like it's just like the feeling that you get when you're playing with it, and making sure that it's not confusing. There's not any negative emotions, hopefully, when going through the flow.
That friction.
Yeah, that friction. And then I guess like when I continue to make the mocks, I continue to chat with engineers, my product manager, Zeus, like game design, Edgar, and CGIF. From product to game, it's more of like to understand if these are the right requirements to have with this feature, if it's good to go. And then as far as like the technical part with engineer tech artists, to understand that if this is feasible. I think that's really important, is that as a junior designer, I started out, I was like, okay, like let's try to make this the best product ever. But then like once I've been in the industry for 2 years, I realized that, wow, like it really depends on the resources you have and understanding like if it's technically feasible, and just trying to work with best with what you have. And, you know, as our tech gets better, as like, we're able to get more resources, then, you know, you can update it and like do like a better version of it in the future. Yeah, I think making games is a very like, it's a very long process. It's not like a you're finished and done type of thing. It's always going to be changing.
Especially live operated games, like we're always iterating like on something that's already out in the world. So sometimes when something comes out, it's just kind of like bare bones or not what we would consider ideal. And then a few months down the road or a year down the road, that's when it's finally like, yes, this is what we wanted to build.
Yeah. And I think it's good to note that, you know, sometimes your feature that you ship doesn't get like a good response. And I feel like that's totally okay. That's just like feedback that you get, and then you can work on it and iterate more. I think it's like a totally normal like process to have.
Yeah. All right. Okay, so Zeus and Tiffany have worked together to put this design spec and these mocks and these wireframes, these hopefully some sort of like low fidelity prototype, or maybe something a little more high fidelity. Evie, how are you involved in this process?
Yeah, so I look through Zeus and Tiffany's specs and designs and mocks, and I think about, you know, are these feasible? Are these things that we've done before and that we can just reuse in a different way? Or does this need like a completely new system or a new like framework or something to make those things happen? And then I work with other engineers and our Scrum leader, which is usually our manager, to like task out what we need to do to make those things happen. Like if there are any things that the server engineers need to do to make some of those background things happen when you tap a button. We talk about like if it's feasible for them or what they need from us or what we need from them. So there's a lot of collaborating happening. And then maybe during the process, like somebody says like, actually, we can't do that one specific thing because it's just impossible. And like, we don't have smell-o-vision yet. So then we go back to Tiffany and we're like, so it turns out we don't have smell-o-vision yet. Could you help us figure out a different way to do that? And so it's kind of like that back and forth that happens between Zeus and Tiffany, but like on the engineering side until we eventually make the thing.
I think one thing that Evie is like massively understating is how many times we get told no by engineering.
I mean, I have to defend my peeps.
but it is like kind of like this game where it's like, okay, we can have the smell-o-vision. It's going to take us 2 years though to build that out. So do you take the 2 years to build something out and take away from resources from other things? Or can we pivot and do something that's not quite smell-o-vision that will maybe just take us 3 months to build?
Yeah.
Or it's like Evie was saying, it's all a conversation. And product managers, I know we don't have anyone that's a product manager here, but they're usually the ones that's like, yeah, the vision of the game, like what's going to make the most sense. All right. And then last but not least, Jason and Anna. You've seen the spec. You've seen the spec. You've seen Tiffany's wireframes and all the interactions that she wants going into this. Evie says, hey, we have the tech or we're going to build it. How are you both involved in this?
I'll give 2 quick examples. So if it's in that example, which to me is kind of the least inspiring sometimes, but sometimes it could be really cool. Sometimes it's just like, here's your spec, we need this metal, or we need this, like this defined art. And then we have to make that art, which is cool. Sometimes it's a little less creative though, especially if it's just like need a metal or something we've been doing over and over and over again. But art also can play a role in the very beginning of this spot too, in terms of like just example, the Halloween map and such like that. During the seasonal pre-planning, we were like drawing out, doing concepts of like, can it look like this? Can it look like this? And then we bring it to tech art, which would be Anna and engineering. It's like, please. And then we kind of leave it to them, and they're like, yes, no, yeah, and mostly no's. Like usually the ideas we come up and like art will come up with in the beginning of a seasonal planning is, I always say it's 90% going to be no. But if I can get that 10% or just one little thing, then I've succeeded. And so there's two different ways art can play that role. We can be in the beginning, or we can be right there at the end of the spec. So yeah.
Yeah, for me, yeah, I would go through the game spec and the UX models, and then try to see what is feasible and what is not feasible in terms of like the visual sides and like how like performance is and sort of stuff like that. And yeah, I would work with the art team and our manager to like try to list out all the tasks, like if we have this asset already, or if we can reuse some things, or if that's something that we have to create a new things. And that would list into the art tasks or the tech art tasks. If it the just the tech art task, something that I can start myself, yeah, I would jump in and maybe create a quick prototype of like how this new animation sequence would look like, stuff like that. But if it's an art task, then it would go to art. And sometimes if tech art doesn't have a bandwidth to explore or create a prototype, we would have someone like Jason, concept artist, who try to like concept and explore how this sequence is going to look like, and then give it to art to try to actually implement it in Unity. And another part that we touch is to polish all the UIs, make things look pretty. We would receive the stuff from engineers. So like every create a wireframe of the UI in the games, and then give it to us. We would hook up the real asset and try to like update the padding, make sure things looks nice and pretty. And yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think based on one of the things you all are saying, one of, I guess, a soft skill that folks need to kind of like prepare themselves for is that not everything is set in stone. Just because you propose something and it was approved doesn't mean that that's exactly what's going to be built out. So being malleable, allowing that process to kind of be a little ambiguous sometimes is okay. And it doesn't mean that you're failing at anything because it didn't, go as planned. Like it's the process. And then once the data comes in and people are playing this, it's going to change even more. So don't worry about it.
I always tell new people that come in, just don't fall in love with anything you do. Like this is not your personal project. You can be excited for your work, but yes, you cannot love your work. There's a big difference. So once you love something, you will get, you're
get heartbroken.
And there's only so many heartbrokens you can do before you're just in the dumps. And should never be in the dumps for work, like never.
And speaking of advice that you'd give yourself, what kind of advice would you give yourself, your younger self? Like, if knowing everything that you know now, knowing what you've been through all these years and working in games, what advice would you share?
I would say clock out at 5. I would say work-life balance is really important. I think when I was a student, the idea of like just studying every single day, do the test, and then stay up a little late to make sure you're getting the work done is very ingrained to me. But as I'm like a working adult now and have a big girl job, it's me understanding that, there's life outside of work. I have my friends, I have my family, and I feel like just understanding like the important values of life and just making sure you have enough rest. Yeah.
Yeah, for me, so I identify as a queer person of color. Being able to live your authentic self in the work that you do is just as important as outside of the work that you do. So I would tell my younger self, just be comfortable and confident in your own skin, because then it will allow you to be as fully creative as you can possibly be when you are living your authentic life.
Yeah, if you're just spending energy on the wrong things and trying to hide yourself, or like I feel this, that energy can be better served in other things. If you, especially like in games, like I feel that for the most part, this is a pretty safe space compared to like other industries. And the folks that I work with, a lot of the folks in this room, everyone is like super authentic and just like fully themselves all the time. And that just allows us to be amazing at what we do, because the energy is going in the right place.
And speaking of energy, there's this article I've shown to many people. It's manage your energy, not your time. It's kind of everything I've iterated already in this talk, like, but a lot of this stuff in this article, it's written by Tony Schwartz and Catherine McCarthy, I believe. It's a Harvard Business Review article. It's only like 7 pages, so it's a quick read. But if you read through that, I think there's a lot of things in here that it's just, getting you the right sleep, putting your energy in the right places, like, clocking out on the right times, like what the benefits are of that. Like, I just recall this one story at my prior job where my boss would come up to me and be like, "Hey, do you have any ideas for this?" And I'm like, "No, I don't. But let me go to the gym and I'll come back and let's see what happens." And so I would go to the gym and I would come back like more often than not. And I'd be like, "What about this?" And I never knew why. But in the article, it was definitely explained a little bit of why that was. And was a conscious mind decision. So I'm not going to really spoil all this. Go read that. And, I think that would greatly benefit you all in the future.
Anna, any advice?
I think for myself, it would definitely be kind of like the advice we're giving in the earlier question is like, be malleable. Like, no path is always the way that's going to happen. Like, I didn't think I'd be in the game industry. I thought I would be, I don't know, working on circuits right now. Like be malleable, be open, try things that you've never done before, listen to other people's stories. I think that has really affected like the different changes I've taken in my life. And also like, live your life with no regrets. Like, even though I didn't have the straightforward path to here, I every step of the way definitely contributed to who I am now. And I wouldn't change any of that. So like, I think it's like, take the time, reflect, but also like see the good in all of the things that you have done, which I think for me as a very perfectionist child was very hard to accept later in life.
For me, I think it would be the work-life balance, because I didn't sleep as much when I trying to break into the industry. And yeah, that was get to the point where like my health wasn't really good for 1 year. Like I always like healthy and then like to play sport and stuff like that. But that was this 1 year that like I think I only have like 3 or 4 hours sleep per day because I pushed myself too hard. And after that, it wasn't really that good at all. And yeah, I still feel like some of the side effects still there. So yeah, please take care of yourself.
Be better than us, please. Learn from our fails. I have one last question for you all before we move into a quick Q&A. And you get to choose. What is your favorite Pokemon? Or what is your favorite Pigo moment? For me, just in case, sorry. For me, I love Bulbasaur. First one out of the list, super cute, kind of like golden retriever energy. He's my favorite.
No joke.
For me,
All right, Bruce.
Oh, is that good?
You go, Zeus. You go.
Okay. Yeah. For me, it would definitely be Eevee. Only because it has all the evolutions tied to it, and all of the visuals for it are always very distinct to each of its forms.
Here's a moment in the Pokemon. The quick moment is we were at an offsite and we were all going around the room saying our favorite Pokemon. So exactly what's happening now. And I 100% like in my mind was like, everyone is going to say Charizard. Like it is. And we went all around the room and I was one of the last people to say it and no one had said Charizard. And I was like, this is ridiculous. So like, how did no one say Charizard? And then they got to me, I was like, Charizard, like really? Like, how is that? How's no one said that? Like, so it was like mind blowing. All my life, I was just like, it's all Charizard. Like, who else can say anything else? Like, makes no sense.
I mean, my favorite Pokemon is Slowpoke, but I totally feel you, Coralie, on the Bulbasaur. Like, actually, my slippers right now are Bulbasaur slippers. So yeah, he's number one. I totally get that.
I don't have a favorite Pokemon, but in the game, I tag certain Pokemon that I think are pretty. So there's like a list of them. But I would say like my favorite Pico moment was when we released Shaman. There was like an animation of it was so cute. It was like Shaman just like, oh yeah. Jason's background is an example, but like Shaman would kind of like waddle to the front and then you could catch it. I thought that was like definitely my favorite moment. Yeah, I recorded it too, so I had it forever.
Are you sure it's not Flying Pikachu?
Oh yeah, this one's also cute.
It's kind of creeping up behind.
My favorite Pokemon, probably everyone in the company know, it's also Slowpoke. Yeah, it's so cute, so chill out. Yeah.
Yeah, we have a Slack emoji that's just Slowpoke going. All right.
Can I jump in? Can I jump in?
Yes, go for it.
I just gotta say, I'm in love with the fact that last Saturday there was a Mega Swampert Evolution raid week. You made my day. You made my year actually, because I'm a Mudkip fan, and just to see big Swampert out there spinning around in the raids, I got like 20 of them. I'm so happy. So thank you very much for that. You made this person really happy with that.
I'm glad to hear. We'd like to open it now for any questions from the audience. Either you can, I guess, let Rodrigo know if you're in the same room as him, or if anyone else is listening in from elsewhere. I know we can't really see where this is being live streamed, but if anyone can like filter those questions that might be coming in from where it's being live streamed.
Jen, you there?
Yeah.
I can answer I can get the questions that are here in the room, and if you can get the ones in chat.
Yes, of course.
All right. I got one here right now. If you wanna.
Yeah.
Come on down.
Sin miedo.
Sin miedo. She's shy. All right. Sit down.
Is Pokemon Go going to have Fuegogo, Sprigato, and Quaxley? Please, I need them.
I don't think we're allowed to answer that question. We'll get in a lot of trouble if we do. So we can neither confirm or deny.
It's like the CIA, but sure.
Yes. But definitely, I would imagine you're already playing Scarlet and Violet, so get your fix there, and then I guess wait and see. Yeah. Like I honestly have no idea. I'm not on the team, so, and the team can't speak to it. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Anybody else? Huh? Come on down. Got a question here.
Yes.
Hello.
My question would be, as someone who just got into the video game design aspect, I'm trying to acquire knowledge about how to draw, how to make character design. What would be your best advice for someone who does not have much of knowledge about it? Like,
Coming from design into art,
yeah, exactly.
I don't know if either Zeus or Jason can answer that question.
Are you talking about character design? You want to do character
Yeah,
art?
like character design or concept art.
Mhm. Um, Especially for characters, it's just a lot of drawing the figure. So, really study figure drawing, study some of the masters. Vilku is probably one of the greatest teachers and a really great figure drawer. But on top of that, it's really about observation as an artist. Like your drawing does not need to be this magnificent like structural piece, right? Like it's really about the details within a character. So when you go out sketching and observe people, how they interact, what they're doing, what they're wearing. Try to answer who their character is without even talking to them. In a way, it's judging. I know, I understand, but like you get that through characters and character design, right? Like that's what makes a great character is when you can see their personality through their visual look. So like when I'm out, I definitely look for these story moments. One story moment that always hits me is I was at an A's game and we were at the bottom watching these fireworks. And in front of me was a man with a cane, and him himself was helping this 1-year-old walk. And so it was like this really interesting moment where you had this man with a cane, that's his character, right? But he was also helping this little child walk that showed the child's character. And it was like, everyone needs help. And just that moment, like I would always be ingrained in my mind. So if I went to a character design that needed this, I know exactly what they were wearing. I know exactly their movements. But that's part of being a character artist is that observation and knowing these certain moments. So, just be aware of all that, as well as, just learning your technical drawing. I know with AI and all this stuff coming out, it's kind of crazy with technical skills, right? But you still need to have the eye for it. If you don't have the eye, then that's something that is trained, and that's something that takes a lot of practice.
All right, thank you so much.
Just in case for our panelists in our audience, some of our panelists might need to drop out because they have some other meetings, but if folks can stay, I would super appreciate it. And I know the audience would as well. So it's up to you all.
We're flexible with you guys, whatever you guys need. So.
All right, any other questions?
Come on down. One more in the room, Jen. Then it's over to you.
Hello. Just saying it since we were sharing our favorite Pokemon. Mine is an Alolan Ninetales. I really like Ninetales. I wanted to ask for an advice. Is that this is, I think, the start of my 4th year in college, and I'm in programming, but I'm mostly an artist. I'm really good at art, but I'm very unconfident on my skills in my degree, in my profession. So would you guys have an advice for someone who's gonna soon just graduate and go find a job since the future is unknown?
Oh no. I feel this might be kind of your wheelhouse a little bit, and to explain a little bit of what it is that you do, because it involves both those things. Sorry if you didn't hear me, Anna.
Oh, sorry. I just changed the meeting room. Yep. Yeah. So I think it's okay to be not confident sometimes, but what we have to think about is maybe think that it would be better. So try to grab a lot of feedback to see where you can improve on it. And when you finish working on that, and when you look back, you will realize that your work become a lot better. So yeah, I think it's okay to like feel not confident sometimes. Like even me today, sometimes I still feel unconfident about my work. But what really keep me going is maybe it's people around me. So yeah, try to grab a feedback and then try to work on it.
One thing with confidence as well, confidence is really just how many times you've kind of failed in a way. It's practice, right? Like how I'm not very confident. Like I sometimes I can talk a lot and I'm very personable, but like whenever I'm feeling unconfident, I just know I just push myself to do it, knowing that failing is okay. Like that is like the best actually, because every time you don't succeed at something, you go back, internalize it, say, what could I have done better? And you go back and do it again, which each time you do that, the more and more confidence you will gain. So it's just, even if you're just like meeting new people, like just saying hi to somebody is probably going to be so awkward, right? Like, and you're probably, it's most uncomfortable feeling is meeting a new person. It really is. But the more times you just go up to someone and say, hi, how you doing? Hi, how you doing? You will get better and better and better. So same with your work, just present it, and just give it a try. Don't bring your expectations too high, don't bring them too low, and learn from what happens from it. And that you'll gain so much confidence in the long run with that.
I have some questions over here in the Q&A part of Zoom and as well as in chat. I can address them if that's okay, Rodrigo.
Go for it.
All right. First one that I see, what would be a good practice to enter Niantic or a AAA company portfolio-wise? So maybe some advice on what are good things to have in your portfolio or what you should be like focusing on. Jason, I feel this might be like your wheelhouse because they are talking, well, I don't know specifically what type of portfolio, because as a game designer, you can also have a portfolio or an engineer. So I guess it depends, but if it's an art portfolio.
Yeah, if it's an art portfolio, so a couple things. One, understand the company and what they do. Niantic's portfolio is going to be way different than if you want to do like Riot, Blizzard, and even Riot and Blizzard are going to be way different than each other. So really just understanding what it is, understanding where you want to go. You want to be a character artist, environment artist, 3D artist, 3D environment, like, know the role that you're going for. So that's kind of first and foremost. Secondly, find out who works there already. And look them up. We have the internet. So before came to Niantic, I looked up every single artist on the team. I looked at their portfolios. I looked at where they've been. Feels a little stalkery, I know, but I was not emailing them or, anything like that. I was solely going out for what work do they have and what do they show. That's what I'm looking them up for, nothing personal. But studying what they put on there. And from there, I can tailor my portfolio to what they have and what the company has and the position. So I'm looking at those kind of three things: the artists that work there, the company that I'm going for, and the position that I'm going for.
Adding to Jason's advice, a lot of times, especially with new grads, we see portfolios that have like a mix of everything. So they have game design work, and they also have art, and they also have photography, and maybe even 3D printing. Like they just combine everything into one portfolio, kind of like what Jason is talking about, like catering your portfolio to whatever company it is that you're trying to go for. Also make sure that the content of the portfolio is like specific to the role that you're trying to interview for. So if you want a game design role, make sure that that portfolio just focuses on game design. Because otherwise I'll look at it or a hiring manager will look at it as like, well, I see like photography here. So like, do they want to be a photographer or do they want to be a game designer? Like what's going on? Unless there's a way for you to tie those two things, because that's a different story, but try to curate your portfolio to specific roles.
And it's okay to have that stuff, but put it like personal, like, to show
Exactly.
your personality. or like to show you have other interests. That is also like another plus. But cater the massive where people are first going to,
The landing page.
the landing page, exactly. Like look at the user experience that you're going through, right? Like same thing.
I think, yeah. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I think personal branding is extremely important, especially as you enter the industry and try to represent yourself when you're like interviewing. I think a really good way to go about it is like for me, when I was making my portfolio, I would ask really one of my friends, like, can you look at it and like tell me what you think of the portfolio, what I do. I think that's like a really good like run through to practice if you're trying to like gauge what you're trying to what type of branding you're going for.
I also want to highlight consistency. So if it's an art portfolio, for example, you have 5 pieces of art, 4 really good one, but one like a bad one or like not so good one. Yeah, they would think that like, oh, maybe you're the other 4 might not grade that much. They will look into the bad one. So yeah, try to make sure that your portfolio is consistent.
Yeah. All right. We have a question about networking tips. Do you have any?
I would say like LinkedIn's a great example of if you're looking at a particular company and seeing what people work there. Like Jason said, kind of stalkery, but it can give you an idea of like what people to look for in their background. I think what's helpful for me when I started, and I'm still doing today, is always be prepared to have questions. You don't want to just come in and just have a really broad question because that won't like help you, because it's really important to have like specificity because that will give better feedback. I think the last thing is like really try to follow up with the person instead of just saying, okay, thank you, bye. Like it's really good to be like, oh, can I meet with you the next couple of weeks just to give you an update of where I'm at. And then there you have a connection. And it's like really important to have these connections throughout your career because you'll never know where they're going to get you. And vice versa. You never know, like if they might need help too.
One thing I would say on networking is remember, like, again, don't be afraid to say hi or talk. There is a limit. Like if they don't reply, if someone doesn't reply, then leave it alone, right? Like that's they're busy or it's nothing personal. But just reaching out to anybody. Like when I was doing the short film, I reached out to the lead lighting artist at Pixar, and I was like, what does it hurt? I'll just ask, like, just say hi. And he actually replied to me, and he invited me to Pixar, and we went over the lighting keys, and it was incredible. Like I didn't bother him. I wouldn't have bothered him again if he never replied, but he did. And then I had reached out to the director at DreamWorks, like a director that, and showed him some storyboards. He replied, and he actually drew all over my storyboards. And he was messaging me more than I was messaging him. Like he was so excited for the project. Like, so I think the thing is, remember, everyone is human. Like there's no one higher than you, no one lower than you. We're all the same. And just saying hi, it's just a natural thing. We all want to talk to people. We all want to share knowledge. It's just knowing, like, if no one replies, like, just leave it alone.
One, I guess, piece of advice, especially coming, from the island and knowing how limited resources can be sometimes, rely on each other as networking opportunities. And also Discord is really great for networking, even though folks just use it maybe like for gaming and stuff. I'm in a bunch of industry Discords, like so way too many. I can't keep up with all of it. But you will find other professionals there. There's a lot of mentoring opportunities there, like as well, especially with the IGDA. And I know Twitter has been kind of going through stuff lately, but a lot of game development is on Twitter. And follow folks, and you'll start seeing more and more game developers showing up on your feed. We're kind of really united over there. So that's still networking opportunities apart from, you know, your meetups and your events that you go to, GDC, all of that. If your only option is virtual and remote, definitely lean into Discord and into social media. Another question, in terms of the development of Pigo, what has been your biggest challenge?
For me in this role and project, being concise in my communication with TPC, the Pokemon company, because they're Japanese native speakers, right? And our Zoom meetings is only like 30 minutes or an hour, right? Being able to like really effectively communicate an idea so that they can so that the translation can be understood properly, I think it is definitely kind of like an adjustment period. In prior projects, I had been working on games where the stakeholders and everyone were native English speakers. So just refining that ability to speak concisely was definitely something that I had to adapt starting in this role.
One of the biggest challenge I would say is keeping morale up. And that's not just at Niantic or Pigo. So this is not a Pigo development thing. This is actually just in games.
Industry thing.
Industry thing. It's keeping morale up. We've mentioned it a few times, but you're going to hear no more often than not. And there's going to be things that bother you so much about the game. Like in any game you work on, you're going to be like, why can't we do this? Like, why are we doing this? Why are we doing that? Like, and that's that part of just separating yourself and just understanding, like, instead of making swooping changes, we're not going to make these swooping changes, but maybe little bits at a time, like little at a time, and just you're chipping away at making improvements, because these are big games, these are big corporations, these are, you're not the only person in the working on this game. You're not the so it's just keep your morale up, and understanding that it's just little bits at a time is actually a lot over the time.
Yeah, I would plus one to what Jason said. I think as a UX designer, like as I'm creating mocks, there's a lot of times where I get said like, oh, this isn't working, go back to the drawing table. I would say that's especially hard for me when I first started. But I think like just taking feedback or not taking feedback personally is like a really good advice. I wouldn't say like you can quickly get it done. Like it's not like a one and done type of skill, but you get better with time. As more no's you get, you're starting to understand how people give feedback. And then when you're working on like a mock or something, you can kind of gauge like, oh, I know what this person will say, or I know how this will be perceived. Let me go back to the drawing table.
Got a question over here.
Yeah.
Hello. I wanted to ask, what can you do when you're in a really bad art block? Like, what inspires you to keep going or to keep creating?
Let's see. Ona, do you have anything like? And I feel like Ona's an artist too, so I want to.
For me, I guess just go through Instagram and Twitter. Just look at somebody else's art, and yeah, you will see a lot of inspiration, and pin an interest is also a very good place. Yeah, you can just type in a random keyword and then look through. That would be I think at least some picture would inspire you. Yeah.
And for me, it's really getting out. It's getting away from the issue. So I've mentioned a few times, like real life is so inspiring. And actually experiences are so inspiring. If you looked at the latest loading screen, that one I actually did do. And that was such a huge artist block. Like I had to go through so many iterations on that loading screen with TPC, and we just kept saying no to every concept I was putting out there. It was rough. Like that one was really rough. And it wasn't until I sat back and was thinking about my own experiences and not really drawing anymore that I was like, the New York trip was so amazing, like that I had taken. I was like, oh, maybe I can do something around a city. And remember when I was sitting and I was looking at my sketchbook and I was like, oh, I was sitting in Central Park this one day. And I was like, oh, maybe I'm like sitting on the bench and like I'm viewing, what's happening here. And that's kind of where that whole idea came from. So it was just getting away. I got out and then I kind of just was remembering, my own personal times and, putting my own personal note on it. And I do that a lot with a lot of the art pieces too. So, have experiences and try to draw on those. Those will usually be your best pieces.
I kind of want a plus one, and I'm pretty sure Tiffany may feel the same way here. As designers, our skill sets do lie in visual communication, and we draw so much. We draw all the time. And there are moments where it's like, I can't find a solution to this. I just can't find the right way to communicate what should be going on in the screen from a visual standpoint or an interaction standpoint. And sometimes it's literally just, I need to get up and walk. I need to take a shower because like sometimes like your best ideas come in the shower, or you just need to get away from the problem to be able to kind of like breathe for a moment and analyze it a little bit better. I look at a lot of market comps, a lot of stuff that exists, other games or even other apps, because that inspiration can hit where you least expect it. I also talk to a lot of people because designing in a vacuum or creating in a vacuum is not ideal, especially you are working on a project. Like I don't remember how many people work on Pokemon Go. I think it's like 150, something like that, right, y'all? The team is about 150 or so. You have 150 potential people that you can be like, hey, can I borrow you for a second? And just kind of like, can you brainstorm with me a little bit and see if like, can you be my soundboard? And I do that all the time because collaboration is just so important for a project that is collaborative.
I'd also like to add, like, even though my job is technically like a 9 to 5, like I don't have to be staring at my computer monitor for 9 to 5. Like it's also taking a time where I have my breaks because it's a lot of like mental work that we're all going through. And so it's really important that the time you take that break is part of the 9 to 5, and you really shouldn't be like too stressing on like, oh my God, I need to be sitting at my table or someone's watching over me. Really take the time to kind of like relax your mind and then go back to the drawing board when you feel ready.
Yeah, because let's face it, you're working way more than 9 to 5, like all the time, like especially as an artist or whatever, like not as an artist, but when we're out there, right? I mean, this isn't an artist thing. How many times are you just thinking about what you're working? That's working. Like, like how many times I've like been outside and I'm like, oh, that value is this and this value is that. And like, I'm not even thinking about it. I'm just like, dang it, stop. Like, just relax, dude. Like, why am I staring at this? Why are those colors like this? I'm literally painting while I'm just supposed to be taking a break. It's good. It is bad at the same time, but just remember, like, you don't need to be inside all the time, and it doesn't need to be focused on work because then you're not helping yourself.
Thanks. I have a tricky question from the Q&A side over here. I'm going to rephrase it a little bit because we can't actually like answer the question the way that it's written. But let's say you wanted to reanalyze the way battle works in Pokemon or any sort of feature. From being just a single tap to like multiple different abilities, or you want to iterate on a feature per se, like what does that process typically look like for something that already exists in the game? Like typically when, I guess another way to describe it is like, how is that decision made? And how would the team, I guess, approach a decision like that?
I can talk about how it's from when you don't have something existing, because I was part of the team that made the first version of PvP. And there was actually a lot of different prototypes that we had in mind before we made PvP. Some of them were turn-based battle, just like in the console games, and some of them were not. And actually, like the big part of the process is working with the license holder, the Pokemon company, and they had a very strong preference to not do turn-based battle. So it's really like working with TPC that kind of like influences a lot of the decisions we decide to make. Like we may have a lot of ideas of what we want to do, but they own the product and they know what games they're going to be having coming out in the future, what they want the vision for their brand to look like. And so we kind of have to like collaborate together to come to that point. So like right now we have PvP as a tappable experience, because their idea was that they wanted to have battles be fast, and turn-based battles are not that fast, especially when you're on a mobile phone and you're like walking to your next destination. Like it takes a lot of time. So they like the idea of fast catching in Pokemon, fast battles in Pokemon, like dropping your Pokemon at the gym. They like that idea of like making things speedier. So that's how we came to the decision of like PvP will be tap based and not like I take a turn, you take a turn kind of situation. And that also drives like future decisions on like where we want to take like new battle systems or updating battle systems. Is like we work with TPC, we base off what we've done already, what worked, what we see fans like, don't like, what TPC likes, doesn't like, or what they're deciding the vision of the brand will be in the future. That's really how we make those new decisions on how things go.
I think you hit something really important in regards to like how the games that Niantic makes are so different from pretty much every other game, even on mobile. And it's the fact that we play outside when we play our games. So the whole design and the whole experience and flow and journey of the features that we do build out has to accommodate the fact that you are walking, looking at your phone like this, you are standing in front of something, trying to complete something quickly, because over there's a time sensitive thing that I need to get to before I'm done here, versus being on my couch and going through some sort of turn-based battle or anything like that. Like to your point, interactions, that journey, whatever the user is doing has to be quick, because the environment around them as they're playing forces it to be quick.
Right. Yeah. The crosswalk isn't going to wait for your battle to end.
Exactly.
From the art standpoint, on getting things changed, it's really, and I guess maybe it could reflect on other ones too, is you need to put the work in first, like to get movement. For example, if I want, and it's just an example, if I wanted to change the gym look, right? I can't just go and say, hey, y'all, like we should change the gym look. Like, good luck. Like, not going to happen, right? But if I change the gym look by doing concept on it, and showing it and showing why why it's better, why it's, should be changed, and giving reason behind it. And then also with a visual or whatever, getting excitement from from TPC or whatever, they're like, oh yeah, like then you have movement. But I can't just come with, I want the gym changed. And it's not,
Just
this is just an example, just saying that out right now. You have to, put thought into it and put a reason why behind it and get excitement behind the movement. And that's it. So
Yeah, I think as a UX designer, it's extremely important. I think the good thing is on our side is that I won't say it's easy to make mocks, but it doesn't require much like coding to like actually make it work. So I think having visuals is extremely important for buy-in and making sure like making it feel like alive, and it can like bring people to your side to understand like, oh, maybe this is a good potential solution that we could go with.
Even if it's storyboards,
Yeah, yeah,
Anything that communicates it. Yeah.
yeah.
Rodrigo, we actually all have meetings now. But I think with that last question, we're gonna go ahead and wrap it up.
That's great. I really
Right.
appreciate all the insight you've given our students. I really want to thank you all for giving us a real human approach to the industry. I know a lot of students worry about if their work is good enough, if they're putting in enough time into work, and possibly running the chance of burning out before even hitting the industry, just to prove to the industry that they're worth it. And to hear it from people within the industry that, you know, you need to take time for yourself, that, you know, stepping away from work and giving yourself time to think in a clear and comfortable environment, and then which will usually lead to a solution, whereas banging your head against the keyboard will not. I think all of that information is very valuable, and it's something that they can apply to their work schedule and their lives effective immediately. So it's really valuable advice, and I really appreciate all the time and effort for getting this group of people together at the Corali. Thank you very much for that, and thank you
Thank
all
them.
for taking a little bit of your day out to join us and give us your insight. It was very helpful. So thank you very much. And I will let you guys go back to work.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone.
Feel free to reach out to me on Twitter or Discord or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you have, I guess, for the panelists, if you have like any, Twitter handles or anything like that that you're okay with sharing, go ahead and throw it in chat. For me, I think most people at Atlantic know where to reach me, but like I'm Gorapiki. And I follow almost everybody here anyway. So.
Yeah. And if not, you can
So, yeah.
come talk to me, and I'll make sure they get the info.
Yes. All right, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you very much. Have a good one.